for more videos.
Welcome to Distant Worlds 2. I'm Drake Hawkins, and today we're starting a mini-series called Too Long Didn't Read. This is going to be a walkthrough of the tours and tutorials of very specific parts of the game. It's extremely complex game, it's extremely deep game, and we're only going to be scratching the surface, but each video should cover a very particular part, usually in just a few minutes. In the next 7 or 8 minutes, we're going to be going through the Start Game function, all of the different tabs involved, and you'll be able to see all the details of each piece and what it does so that you can think through the process of what you're going to do and understand what each of these options have for you. Let's get started. In Distant Worlds 2, you get to build your own galaxy the way you want. It might not turn out the way you want, but at least you get to start the way you want. There's going to be a random seed up here. You can share your seeds. Great idea. Options on the top are the galaxy shape. They vary as you go across. Varied clusters has been a lot of fun for me. The star option will give you the total count of stars approximately in your universe. The nebula density is going to be these clouds here that will basically be terrain on the world, geography for your galaxy. The galaxy size is important to note because if you set these as 1,000 and normal, it just compresses it. So this is your spread of the settings above. In the Galaxy Settings page, you get to specify all the basic details about the age and development of the galaxy. Later, you'll be able to specify where you sit on that spectrum. Galaxy Expansion is about the size and development of the auto-generated empires and the independents, whereas the tech level is the actual research that's unlocked by those levels. Note that in Galaxy Setting, if you're past the starting, you're going to have also level 1 or beyond. You can't do pre-warp in an expanded world. Doesn't make sense. The Galaxy Aggression is going to determine the AI's aggression, not just to you, but to each other as well. The difficulty setting is a bit of a special one here, because it gives modifiers to you the player, not the other empires. So your colony income is affected, your corruption levels, your research levels, and that affects how difficult the game is compared to the others. It won't affect two different AI factions' interactions with each other directly. Research speed affects the overall cost of doing every research in the game for every faction, so that will overall either slow down or speed up the development process through the game. With research pathing, you can have the game randomize your tech tree with each playthrough, or you can go with the fixed research path to set the same research play every time. And the last one on this list is allow tech trading. This affects you and everyone else in the Empire a quick on or off. In Distant Worlds 2, there is a lot of threats you're going to be dealing with, including pirates. How many do you want in the galaxy? Good, bad, or ugly? The pirate strength. This determines not only how strong they are, but how quickly they grow. With pirate proximity, you get to determine how close pirate factions start to the colonized systems of you and the other AI. With the pirate respawn setting, you can determine what happens to a faction after it's fully eliminated. Will it respawn, or do they stay dead? With space creatures, you get to determine how many of them are in the galaxy. They are going to be a threat, but you can deal with them and then hopefully get some really nice resources out of them. Now let's look at the colonization settings. Colony prevalence is about the quality of planets and moons in the galaxy. The higher the quality of a planet, the larger the population, and thus the more income and power it can project. Aside from the big empires in Distant Worlds 2, there's also independent colonies, and this setting is going to allow you to determine how many of them there are and how big each of them are. Colony influence range affects the borders or the territory claimed by an empire when they establish a colony. Basically, what land is yours and what land you're telling the neighbors to stay out of. This range will affect yours and the AI's territory claims. Colonization range limit determines how far away a new colony can be from an existing population of your empire. This can be set to none to allow you to settle absolutely anywhere. At the time of release, Distant Worlds allows you to choose from one of 7 of the great factions. Each faction has its own flavor, its own background, its own history. It'll provide personality information to determine how they're likely to interact with others. Colonization modifiers show you their preferred and tolerable planet types, what racial bonuses you get by playing as this faction, the faction's default feelings towards other races. Each race has its preferred governments, but there are also other allowed governments if you want to give it a different flavor. And last on this page, it's going to show you the default infantry. Give you an idea of how effective they are in ground combat compared to other races. Ground combat strengths for the races vary extremely, From the very terrifying Mortallans or the Bascarans at 140 and 135 respectively, down to the diminutive Teekans at their 65 strength for attack and defense. In the Empire and Government page, you're going to be asked to choose the government type for your race. This can be changed throughout the game, but as it stands, it's going to have a whole lot of effects on every area of your Empire's development. And of course, the most important and most difficult thing for most players of 4X games is choosing your flag and naming your empire. Next, we get to determine the starting situation of your specific empire. The first choice is, how good is your home system? Is it full of resources? Is it sparse? Do you have to go far and wide to find what you need just to survive? Or are you going to be living in a lush paradise? The next option, expansion, you basically get to choose where you come into the story. Choose if you're at the beginning of your new fledgling empire with your one planet and many dreams, or if you're joining as the leader of a well-established, mature, spread-out colony, and then tech level likewise will determine how advanced the technology of this empire is. With starting location, you can choose whether or not your civilization has spawned in the center of the galaxy, perhaps the edge, or anywhere in the galaxy. The second to last page, you're going to be able to choose the other empires. You can choose the default setting to allow the game to generate random civilizations for you, or you can be more particular and decide who you're going to be up against. On the last page, if you want a victory condition that's other than, man, I just dropped 1,000 hours onto this game, then here's your option to set those. You can determine each of these on or off at the top. If you want to play this game through to a victory, I really suggest you go through and think carefully about these. Without going into excessive detail on this, and for the sake of time, the victory threshold is an important one to note. As you set these top 4 settings, these are the victory conditions, you then have to choose the victory threshold. Do you win the game when 40% of these have been achieved, or do you have to win with every one of these? You have to get 70%, 75% of the economy, and 75% of the territory, and 75% of the population. Or do you have 50% of these 4 conditions together? With start date years, victory conditions only apply after the specific number of years have passed in the game. And you can also set a hard cap on how long the game will run with the time limit years. The last 3 settings are about events. You have colony events, race-specific events, or general story events. All we have left to do is hit start game. And Distant Worlds will create a new galaxy just for you to explore, exploit, expand, and exterminate. If you found the video helpful, please poke that like button on your way out, and consider subscribing if you want more binge-worthy content. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to all our amazing clan members and supporters, and as always, we'll see you in game.